Welcome back to Gemstone Kingdom, where we follow movements of value that don't show up in the news. They're not declared, not in bank records, not in estate disclosures, not even in most government audits. But they're there, moved by couriers, insured off ledger, sealed in temperature-controlled cases, and bought with money that never officially left. Because in moments of instability, when fiat currencies fluctuate, when real estate markets freeze, when compliance turns into exposure, the ultra-wealthy do not wait. They shift into what can't be tracked, what can't be frozen, what can't be forcibly liquidated. Not gold, not crypto, and not art. We're talking about minerals, but not the kind displayed in museums or traded by collectors. These are gemstones selected not for design, but for their ability to move money silently across generations. And if you think this is rare, it's not. It's routine, in circles where power means never having to ask permission. So what exactly are they buying? 10 stones, no public price tags, no transparent markets. Yet one of them, the one ranked number one on this list, has quietly traded for more than $12 million per carat in closed-door transactions. And almost no one knows it exists. If this is your first time here, feel free to subscribe and like. We don't follow trends. We follow the unrecorded. Top 10, Blue Spinel, the untracked reserve of private wealth. Most people, when they hear Spinel, think synthetic, cheap, lab-grown, common. That's because the jewelry industry used synthetic Spinel as an imitation ruby for decades. It doesn't carry a household name. It's not marketed. And for most casual investors, it wouldn't even appear on the radar. But among certain circles, the kind where art, minerals, and capital blend, Blue Spinel has quietly become a silent currency. This isn't Sapphire, and that's precisely why it works. Blue Spinel occurs naturally in limited zones, primarily in Sri Lanka and more recently in Vietnam's Luc Yen district. It forms in metamorphic marble-hosted deposits, often mined artisanally using hand tools and low-impact surface extraction. The geological conditions needed to form pure cobalt blue spinel are so specific they've only occurred a handful of times in recorded mineral history. But natural, untreated blue spinel, especially with medium-saturated violet blue hues, tells a different story entirely. These stones are clean, often type 2 clarity. They exhibit intense refractive brilliance, comparable in luster to sapphire, but with slightly lower density, making them ideal for high-carat wearable stones without excessive weight. Cut stones between 3 and 5 carats of fine Ceylon or Luc Yen material now command between $8,000 to $25,000 per carat, depending on origin, color saturation, and absence of treatment. Exceptional cobalt specimens exceeding 10 carats are rarely sold on the open market at all. But it's not just the numbers. Blue Spinel's rise among the elite stems from its anonymity. Unlike sapphires or diamonds, there's no institutional tracking, no exchange-wide pricing matrix, no legacy hallmark that draws attention at customs or in asset disclosures. For ultra-high net worth individuals, that's an advantage. Blue Spinel can be moved, held, insured discreetly, and traded through private sale without triggering the same regulatory optics as diamonds or high-value art. In Singapore, Hong Kong, and Geneva, select vault managers have documented a threefold increase in demand for untreated spinel from 2020 to 2024. Most of it through private curators or high jewelry ateliers that do not advertise. It's wealth storage in plain sight, unregulated, unleveraged, and visually indistinct to those outside the loop. And perhaps most crucially, it's not in fashion. Because by the time a gemstone becomes fashionable, its currency function has already ended. Blue Spinel hasn't reached that point. And for the elite, that's precisely why it's at the beginning of its curve. Top 9th, Imperial Topaz, the forgotten commodity of royal gold. It once sat in royal crowns. Then it disappeared. Not from the earth, but from conversation. Imperial Topaz isn't a trend. That's why it endures. This stone exists almost exclusively in one part of the world, the Ouro Preto region of Brazil. Geologically, it forms in hydrothermal cavities of granite-rich environments under conditions so rare that only a few hundred kilograms are recovered per year, and even less meets high jewelry grade. Its natural color ranges from golden orange to deep peach, sometimes with rose undertones. No heat, no enhancement, just pure chromophore action. A result of precise chromium and iron ratios, locked in a molecular lattice that no lab has successfully replicated. Faceted specimens between 3 and 7 carats, if untreated and well-proportioned, are now trading discreetly between $5,000, $12,000 per carat, especially if certified with Brazilian origin. But few talk about it. And that silence isn't accidental. Unlike diamonds, Imperial Topaz has no centralized pricing structure, no De Beers-like institution, and no global certification monopoly. That means it often creeps through estate transfers, private vaults, or undisclosed asset portfolios managed by family offices in São Paulo, Zurich, and Abu Dhabi. What makes it especially appealing to the elite? 3 things. First, its portable wealth. One 10-carat gem fits in a locket, yet exceeds the median U.S. household income in value. Second, it's difficult to fake well. While synthetics exist, gemologists trained in topaz inclusion patterns and birefringence can verify origin rapidly, giving confidence in private trades. Third, and most important, it's off-market. No public auction spikes, no price tracking bots, no mainstream exposure to trigger regulatory scrutiny or insurance thresholds. Over the past 10 years, a small number of Imperial Topaz hoards have quietly been documented, not in gem shows but in inherited holdings, sealed bank safety deposit boxes, and discrete gifting structures designed for intergenerational wealth movement. It's not the kind of stone you sell, it's the kind you hold because no one's watching and nothing needs to be declared. While others chase blockchain wallets or offshore art loans, Imperial Topaz has become something else entirely, a quiet container of value, coded in color, locked in geology, and understood only by those who've already bought it. And unlike diamonds, there's no floodgate waiting to open. The mines are aging, production is narrowing, there is no next source, which is precisely why the wealthiest are buying now, before the silence ends. Top 8. Melo Pearl, the unclassified wealth of the South China Sea. It doesn't have a certificate, it's not listed on gem exchanges, and yet single pieces have fetched 6 figures, in cash, in private deals, with no paperwork. The Melo Pearl isn't a pearl by classification, but it is wealth, especially when the goal is invisibility. Formed by the Melo sea snail, this gemstone emerges without human interference. There's no farming, no culturing, no lab method to recreate it. Each one is a biological accident, a natural secretion that can take decades, sometimes a lifetime, inside a slow-moving marine gastropod found only in the shallow waters of Vietnam, Myanmar, and Thailand. Its color tells the entire story. Fine-grade Melo pearls glow with an orange flame pattern. Not surface shimmer, but a structured internal radiance visible when rotated under light. These are the ones collectors want, but the market isn't public. Most Melo pearl trades never reach the auction. They pass through intermediaries in Macau, Singapore, and Dubai, often as jewelry, mounted but not branded. A way to move a 6-digit value across borders with no customs red flag. Unlike diamonds, Melo pearls have no regulatory body, no grading scale, no serial number, and that makes them powerful. For ultra-wealth individuals seeking to store value outside traditional systems, Melo pearls offer something gold can't: untraceability, plausible deniability, and aesthetic appeal. In one stone. Between 2016 and 2024, private family vaults in Southeast Asia have quietly absorbed dozens of high-grade Melo pearls, often paid in local currencies, stored under asset categories like marine artifact or heirloom coral. In some jurisdictions, it's not even declared. It's not technically a gemstone. It's not technically a pearl. And that technicality is what gives it power. Because when wealth moves, systems watch. But when does it look like a souvenir? No one asks. Top 7. Red Beryl, the locked asset of the desert vaults. You can't walk into a store and buy it. You can't order it online. And even if you had the money, chances are no one would sell it. Because Red Beryl isn't a commodity. It's a gate-kept asset, controlled not by market demand, but by mining access and insider circulation. This stone is only found in one place that matters, the Wah-Wah Mountains of Utah. Unlike emeralds or rubies, red beryl forms in topaz rhyolite, a volcanic host rock so fragile and fractured that most stones shatter during extraction. The few that survive are often under 1 carat. Anything over 2 carats, eye clean and untreated, is already locked in long-term storage. Its color is unmistakable, deep red, sometimes with violet undertones, closer to pigeon blood ruby than to garnet. Geochemically, it's in the same family as emerald, but far rarer. In the last decade, the mine that once supplied red beryl at a trickle has shut down. The sources, now owned by a private holding group, are no longer in public operation, which means there's no new inventory. So where is it going? Private trades, desert vaults, and into trust-protected family holdings, particularly in the American Southwest, the Middle East, and select enclaves in Switzerland. What makes red beryl perfect for silent currency? Scarcity, for one. It's not just rare, it's non-replaceable. There is no new production. Every existing stone is a fixed supply asset. Second, it's physically small, but disproportionately valuable. A 2-carat red beryl, if properly graded, can quietly store $200,000 in value within a setting smaller than a coin. Third, it's misunderstood. Most regulators, customs officials, and insurance auditors don't even have a valuation protocol for it. It sits in the gray zone between collectible, mineral, and jewelry, offering legal ambiguity by default. That's why the ultra-wealthy aren't flaunting it. They're not wearing it. They're locking it away. Unlike gold, unlike real estate, unlike even digital currency, red beryl is finite, undocumented, and already out of circulation. It doesn't move with markets, it moves with inheritance, and that's precisely how they want it. Top 6, Paraíba Tourmaline. The signal that's disappearing. Every bubble has a signal, and for insiders in the gemstone world, Paraíba Tourmaline was that signal. Bright, unnatural, and too perfect to last. The stone first appeared on the global stage in the late 1980s. From a single hillside in Brazil's Paraíba state, miners began pulling out crystals that glowed like backlit neon, not from lighting, but from within. Collectors didn't know what to make of it. Neither did gemologists. Tourmaline had never looked like this. The secret? Copper and manganese, in unusually high concentrations, create an electric blue and green that no lab could duplicate. At first, prices were modest. Then, as demand outpaced mining, the site dried up completely. By 2005, stones from Mozambique and Nigeria entered the market, offering similar chemistry at a lower price. But for the elite, there's only one source that matters: Paraíba, Brazil. Those stones became vault material. They weren't cut for rings. They weren't mounted for retail. They were weighed, certified, and locked away. Why? Because an actual Paraíba stone, over 1 carat, unheated, vivid blue, is more valuable per gram than platinum or Bitcoin. And once sold into private collections, it rarely returns to the market. What makes it a silent currency? 3 things. Ambiguity. Unless certified by origin, most Paraíbas look like treated Mozambique stones. For customs officials, there's no way to verify a 6-figure stone from a $300 imitation unless the paperwork is perfect. Portability. A $500,000 Paraíba can be mounted in a pendant the size of a fingernail. Low visibility. It's not a flashy brand. No celebrity endorsements. No red carpet overexposure. Which means it stays under the radar. Over the last decade, auction data shows a steady decline in public listings for Brazilian Paraíba tourmalines, but an increase in vault insurance reports tied to private banking clients. Translation? They're still moving, just not where anyone can see them. The signal, once bright and public, is now going quiet, absorbed into a system that doesn't need markets to grow. For the elite, Paraíba isn't just a gem. It's a liquid store of trust that glows only when needed and vanishes just as fast. Top 5. Imperial Jadeite, the contract that's never spoken. Some assets don't need banks, they don't need contracts, and they don't need borders. They only need recognition by the right eyes. Imperial Jadeite operates like a shadow currency, Not because it's hidden, but because it's understood without saying a word. This stone, a translucent electric green jadeite from northern Myanmar, is unlike any other in the gem trade. It's not judged by carats, it's judged by texture, light absorption, internal fluidity, criteria that aren't written but passed down in whispers between dealers in Yangon, Singapore, and Kowloon. What qualifies as imperial? Color, a glowing, saturated emerald green with no brown or gray modifiers. Texture, finer than porcelain, smooth like frozen oil. Origin, almost always traced, quietly, to Pakant, Kachin State, where jade is extracted not by machines, but by human hands under military concession. Why is this the fifth gemstone on our list? No other stone has replaced formal currency as often, especially in Southeast Asia. It buys real estate, it settles debts between dynasties, it moves through generations, unregistered, outside the banking system, but recognized by every level of the elite. It's also nearly impossible to counterfeit at the top grade. There are no lab-grown versions of genuine imperial jadeite. Treatment shows under magnification, and the most valuable pieces are never sold online. They change hands in family offices, private back rooms, or sealed boxes carried through customs with no declarations. In some circles, a single jade bangle is considered a more stable store of value than cash. Not because of what it's worth, but because of who would honor it and why. And in crisis, it becomes language, a green signal between those who know, a contract that doesn't require a signature. At this point, the pattern is clear. The gems we've seen so far, Paraíba, Jadeite, Red Beryl, aren't just beautiful. They're de-risked, concealed, and insulated from the very systems that claim to track wealth. But what happens beyond this? What happens when a stone becomes so rare, so embedded in global agreements, that its value can't even be talked about openly? The final four aren't just assets. Royal contracts, sealed vaults, and invisible insurance networks claim them. And if you've never seen them on the market, that's not an accident. These are the quiet cornerstones of a financial system most people will never enter. Let's continue. Top 4, Fancy Vivid Blue Diamond, the claimed asset with no market. The price is known, the buyers are known, but the market no longer exists. Fancy Vivid Blue Diamonds used to be auctioned. They used to appear, rarely, at Sotheby's, Christie's, or Geneva. Not anymore. At the top end, stones above 10 carats, internally flawless, pure Type 2B, none of them trade publicly because each one has already been claimed. Some are held by royal families, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Brunei. Others are hedge fund-backed insurance trusts where they function as unregistered anchors in vault diversification. A few sit inside state-level reserve packages, hidden behind cultural asset classifications that exempt them from export law. Here's the truth. No blue diamond this rare is available. And if you're offered one, you're not meant to have it. Why are they this powerful? Because they carry value density beyond any other object. One polished stone, the size of a thumbnail, can hold $40 million in internationally recognized, liquidatable wealth. It fits in a pocket. It crosses borders unmarked. And in the right setting, no one knows what it is. There's no inflation risk, no currency translation, no price manipulation, because no one trades them anymore. And yet, in balance sheets across the world, they exist as a non-current tangible asset, or simply unlisted gemstone secured. They are not jewelry. They are pledges between families, regimes, and institutions. Each one represents power that doesn't need to be declared, because if you have to show it, you don't own it. What have you seen so far? Those were elite assets, yes, but still within reach, for the right name, the right deal, the right auction. Now we cross a line. The top 3 is where currency turns to legacy, where stones are no longer bought, they're inherited, hidden, or arranged by private treaties that never reach the open world. These gems don't appear on ledgers. They don't cross customs. And if they do, it's only with the silent consent of powers that cannot be named. Their value isn't calculated by weight. It's embedded in who's allowed to say their name. Let's begin. Top 3. Kashmir Sapphire. The name you can't say without proof. Anyone can claim to own a sapphire, but not this one. Kashmir Sapphire, faithful Kashmir, is the only gemstone in the world where the name itself has legal, institutional, and auction layer consequences. Because faking the name is worth millions, and proving it is worth far more. The original deposit, at high altitude near the Zanskar range of India's northwest, collapsed within 5 years of discovery in the late 1800s. No commercial mining has existed since. Every Kashmir sapphire that exists today was either mined before 1909 or is unproven. That's why certification is not optional. If a stone is Kashmir, it must pass through GIA, SSEF, Gubelin, and sometimes Swiss laboratories in combination to establish the geological fingerprint. Silky inclusions, cornflower saturation, no heat, no filling, no diffusion. And still, fewer than 1 in 1,000 submitted stones receive full confirmation. That's where its power begins, because once certified, a Kashmir sapphire enters a class of wealth beyond jewelry. The top-tier stones, 7 carats or more, untreated, documented provenance from estates or auctions before 1950. They are rarely seen on public record. Most are already pre-reserved, not by collectors, but by asset protection firms, sovereign trusts, and banking dynasties. Why? Because a verified Kashmir sapphire is non-replicable, no new material, non-taxable in many jurisdictions, and non-inflatable. There is no market flood because no new supply exists. A 10-carat Kashmir sapphire, confirmed by dual labs with full estate provenance, can exceed $500,000 to $1.5 million per carat. Yet even that price is theoretical, because almost none of these stones ever go to market. They move in private settlements. They anchor insurance portfolios for the ultra-wealthy. They're written into wills, treaties, and undisclosed settlements. This is not a gemstone. It's a signature-level asset, where the name is the value. But in this case, you're not allowed to say it without proof. We've passed the point of public access. We've crossed the edge of what auctions can offer. And still, 2 remain. The top 2 are not just rare. They are unmonitored, not by governments, not by international gem registries, not even by the databases that track wealth flows across borders. These stones don't appear in trade reports. They don't show up in customs declarations. And yet they move more money, more quietly, than any known object their size. Because the following 2 gemstones aren't just hard to get. They're hard to prove you ever had. Let's move to number 2. Top 2, Alexandrite, the shift no government tracks. If there is one gemstone custom built for silent transactions, it's Alexandrite. Not because of rarity, though it is rare. Not because of price, though it holds weight, but because it changes. Color shift is what made Alexandrite famous. From green in daylight to red under incandescent light. A shift so precise it was called an emerald by day, a ruby by night. But for the elite, that's not the shift that matters. The fundamental shift is geopolitical. Alexandrite's source, the Ural Mountains of Russia, collapsed in the 19th century. Brazil briefly became dominant, then Sri Lanka, then nothing. The mines fluctuate, small parcels appear, but no central government tracks the full output. And more importantly, no country regulates it as a strategic asset. That's where it gets useful. Alexandrite is small, portable, untraceable, and impossible to fake without detection under lab-grade spectroscopy synthetically. Its accurate material, chromium-bearing chrysoberyl, is geochemically unique, but its market isn't controlled. There are no price controls, no international tariffs, no enforced export logs. That means Alexandrite can move across borders as jewelry, as an heirloom, or simply as a colored stone, with no flagged customs trail. In elite circles, Alexandrite appears less at auction and more in multinational inheritances, undeclared asset transfers, and international arbitration settlements. Stones with vivid shift, 3 carats or more, no treatment, Russian or Brazilian origin, can trade for $80,000 to $150,000 per carat, but almost no one sells. Why? Because Alexandrite is deniable. If someone sees you wearing it, it's a ring. If someone needs to move it, it's a gift. And if someone tries to trace it, they won't find a paper trail. In a system built on visibility, this is one of the last invisible contracts. 10 gemstones, some traceable, some not. All powerful, but still visible in some form. Except one. The stone at number 1 doesn't appear in trade databases. It's not ranked on commodity charts. It has no public pricing model, no official reserves. And yet, it's already moved through royal vaults, hedge fund rotations, and legal transfers between collapsed corporations. Ask 10 experts to define its market value. You'll get 10 silent stares. Because this isn't just a stone, it's a signal. Top 1 begins with what nobody owns publicly and nobody dares to list. Top 1, red diamond, the asset that exists without market price. Every asset has a chart, except this one. Red diamond is not rare in the way other stones are rare. It is rare for governments to redact names from files. There are fewer than 30 natural red diamonds known in existence worldwide. Most under 1 carat. None are openly traded. The source? Primarily the Argyle mine in Western Australia, now permanently closed. Even when active, it produced less than 1 red diamond per year. Some years, none. The structure is crystal clear, pure carbon, like all diamonds, but with a deformation in the lattice that shifts light into the red spectrum. No secondary hues, no modifiers, just red. That's what makes it dangerous. Because unlike pink, blue, or yellow diamonds, which are tracked, appraised, and auctioned, authentic red diamonds are not publicly priced. They are too rare to compare, too small to trace, and too important to list. A 0.41 carat red diamond sold quietly in 2020 for over $1.8 million. But even that number was incomplete. The buyer's identity is unknown. The location of the stone now, unrecorded. What makes red diamonds so effective as silent currency? They can cross borders under customs thresholds, anchor private contracts without a public record, and transfer between states, families, or networks with no declared valuation. There is no registry for red diamonds, no central authority, and no legal obligation to disclose them, because almost no government recognizes them as an official asset class. They are insurance without policies, collateral without signatures, and in elite circles, they function as debt resolution, inheritance transfer, and geopolitical bargaining chips, in rooms where numbers are never said aloud. This is not a gemstone. It's a non-market object designed to hold value, where the value can't be seen. Wealth doesn't disappear, it moves. Away from spreadsheets, off-balance sheets, and increasingly into objects with no declared price. The stones you've just seen don't sit in display cases. They're not part of portfolios. They're not declared in audits. They are part of a system where ownership isn't recorded, but power is preserved. Some call it collecting, others call it insurance. But across vaults, trusts, and private borders, it's become something else entirely. A financial language with no words, and these 10 gemstones. This is how it's spoken. Thank you for watching. New reports coming soon. And if this is your first time here, subscribe and turn on notifications. We only publish what others keep off the record.